Okay, and you said I will be also the host, but there will be the technician who will play this the videos and the logos.
Yes, it's me who is going to do it.
Okay.
If you don't want to be,
I will be also the host, but there will be the technician who will play this.
Otherwise, I can add.
You have to launch some videos that I sent you. Who shall I ask? Irina?
Yes, you just mentioned that you would like to show the slides, and I will do it.
Okay, fine, thanks.
Yes, there is a list of emails.
Irina, when is the video going to be launched? Because I should know.
I'm sorry, we need to go live.
It's Anait who is launching the video.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the first showcase organized by the Creative Europe Media Programme with the objective of showcasing best practices from the industry. Because sharing of knowledge, sharing of tips has always been a part of the DNA of the media programme, and the COVID crisis has made those exchanges even more valuable. So we are live now, not only in the platform of the Marché du Film, but also on YouTube. And please use the hashtag European Film Forum to enrich our debate and conversation on social media. So we have a very attractive panel today and a very attractive title. Socially Distant, Digitally Close is the title of the Media at Cannes first showcase. And we will be looking at how festivals and markets have adapted during the COVID crisis and beyond. Because festivals and markets were possibly the first touched and the most impacted institutions in the COVID crisis, but at the same time, the first to react and really come out with very innovative solutions. And I'm really delighted today to have such a wonderful panel with me. Laurence Esbert, so the CEO of Cerimania, and Tine Fischer, CEO, CPH Docs Copenhagen. And actually our two panelists today, they have many common features because you are not only directors of very, very well-known, really top-class festivals, you're also founders of these festivals. And Cerimania is the leading festival when it comes to high-end TV series, while CPH Doc is really the international documentary hub with a strong focus on the connections between art, science, and social impact. And what's even more important is that your events were planned both in March, just with a few days of difference, with the beginning of the lockdowns, where everything was very, very uncertain. And I think the festivals were really lucky to have entrepreneurial and leading women like you that had to take decisions very, very quickly, that not always easy decisions, I'm sure, and we really look forward to listening from you. So we'll be together for around 45 minutes. I suggest that we start our Q&A for 30 minutes, and then there will be an opportunity for the audience to engage with you and ask questions directly to you. So my first question goes to Tine, because CPH Doc was planned between the 17th and the 28th of March, and 10 days before the event, you decided to turn all your activities digital. The festival, the market, all the business events. That was a very courageous decision. So why did you decide to move down this line? And what were the main obstacles that you have encountered? Please unmute.
I'm here now. Yes, yes. Okay, so thanks for the invitation and for running this panel. And I hope there will be many more talks around this. So to be very honest, Lucia, then, well, there are several answers, but the most honest and first answer is that on the 11th of March, the Prime Minister of Denmark closed down the country, and our opening night was on the 15th of March. So that night was a hell of a night. And we looked into two possible versions, either trying to design a way of moving online or just closing down. And I have to say that it was just like being pushed into ice cold, deep water. And I have built the festival for 15 years, and I was just like, no way in FUCK hell am I going to let it down now. I'm not going to lose it. And I had no idea if we were to close down, if we would survive. So I was just like, okay, we're going to find a solution, and we're not going to make a bad version of the festival. We're going to make a real version of the festival. So we didn't want just to do a small streaming program, neither, not only to do a small version of the market. And that's why, as you said, Lucia, we decided to run the festival program and the pitching forum and the conference and the labs and the educational screenings and all the rest. And at that moment where we decided to do it, we had no idea if we could do it. We didn't know if we would get the rights. We didn't know if we could find technical solutions, but we decided to go out and say we're doing it and then just run. And another answer, which is also something about who we are, is that we've been trying for, and I can say that now because now we are a hybrid festival. We've been trying for years to create a digital version of the festival. And we all know, because of distribution windows, that has been a very difficult task. And we've been trying not only because we wanted to reach a large audience, but also seen from a global democratic perspective that we really, really believed in redesigning how festivals and markets work. And when that moment happened during the crisis, then we thought, okay, this is maybe our one lifetime opportunity to actually create a prototype of what a future festival could look like. So it was also like letting us into as kids in a candy store to say, okay, go. And then just taking things down from the shelf, testing. And in the end, things worked and some things didn't work because we had relatively little time to pull it off. But I can say that it has been the most defining moment in my professional life that week. And as I've said before, it has changed who we are, and it will change who we will become forever. And I would never have chosen differently if I could look at it in retrospect.
We cannot hear you, Lucia.
I'm sure we'll come back to that. Laurence, Cerimania should have taken place just a few days later, between the 20th and the 28th of March. And that was possibly one of the worst moments in the COVID crisis in France. So you decided to cancel the festival, but not the market. I'm sure that was a very difficult decision to take. Could you please tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's very strange because it was just like Tina said. I mean, just suddenly you're plunged into deep water and you have to swim. First of all, okay, after we had to take the decision of cancellation, after crying a lot, we said, what can we do? And as opposite to Tina, because we're not in exactly the same field, we decided not to go digital for the festival for different reasons. One is the specificity of the broadcasting rights for TV, and we were sure that we would not get them for, a large audience. The second reason is maybe opposed to documentaries, because your festival is documentaries. TV series are everywhere, and we saw it during this crisis. It's very easy to watch and just to watch a lot of TV series, thanks to the platforms, thanks to the channel, etc. So there was not a need for TV series for the general audience. And more than that, The third reason why we didn't decide to go digital for the festival, for the general festival, is that for us, a festival is, you know, a human event. You have to be together. You have to gather in the same room, to look at the same direction, to discuss with the team, with the creative team, to discuss with your neighbor, etc., to like or not to like it. And to that extent, I totally understood what Thierry Frémaux did, you know, pushing to the end to try to have, you know, just a physical event for a festival. A festival is about meeting people. But so we decided not to do anything digital for the public event. But then came the forum, what we call the forum, which is our professional event. And as soon as we announced that we canceled, people started to call or to write from the industry saying, hey guys, you cannot let us down like that. For us, you know, Series Mania is one of the most structuring event for the year to come in our business. What can you do to help us? So we had very few time, you know, just to decide what to do. So we decided, same as you, we had 10 days to provide the industry with a digital platform. And we tried to, we had really very little time. We said, what is the most important for the industry? First, access to our video library, which is, and I think it's the same for you, Tina. I mean, yeah, all the series that we have selected and that people watch during the festival and after on our already existing digital platform to see what they can buy, which right they can, you know, acquire, etc. And then, as we are known as a content market with a lot of project in development, to give all these international talents the opportunity to pitch, you know, for the audience. That was what we decided. We gave up about, you know, the roundtables, the conferences, etc. Also, I must say, because we were really beginning deep in the crisis, and no one was at that time available just to discuss and, you know, just to take time, etc., etc. Everyone was just overloaded, you know, with the atmosphere of the crisis. Everybody wanted to do something, so we kept what was the most important things for the industry.
Well, and that leads very nicely to my next question, because I know that you are both very optimistic ladies, and an optimist sees opportunities in every difficulty. So have you actually found new opportunities out of this exercise? What have you learned out of this exercise?
Can I say something, Tina?
Okay. Yes, please, Laurence, go ahead.
First of all, which was amazing to us, and I would like, you know, someone to show not the video, the slide, what I brought, is I mean, tremendous creativity of the people to pitch online. And I must say that pitching online, pitching, you know, and preparing your pitch is something totally different than pitching, you know, live. Here you can see, you know, the first slide was, you know, basically the structure of our digital platform. You had international panorama, which means that we gave access to our to some of our international premiere, comedies, and short forms competition. And the second slide is, if you can put the second slide, please, is about the creativity of the people. Okay, here you see on the left, the project called Good People, which is a Belgian project. And the guy that you see there is a scriptwriter. And on his side are his two kids. And he created and he pitched his project using the Playmobiles of, you know, the little toys of his two daughters. And that was amazingly creative. By the way, he found, you know, producers after that. On the other picture is of a Serbian project. And the scriptwriter went up to the top of his building and with a live band, I mean, told the story about his project. So what I learned from that is that, and we will, you know, just keep it for our, you know, next pitching sessions. and add to the live session on stage that you can be very, very creative when it comes to telling a story on a digital form, and not only standing in front of a camera and telling your story, but using everything in your environment. That was the first lesson and first thing that we're going to keep for next year.
Well, that is a really very good lesson. Tine, any similar experience at your end?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, I mean, this is just also to congratulate the entire industry. I think that we didn't have a single no. So people, and that goes for consultants who helped us get online. That goes for producers and filmmakers, for decision makers, for Creative Europe. I mean, it's been a road of help and yes. So I want to say that we live in an industry who are ready to change, and who are also sometimes just acting on it without taking a long time to consider it. So I mean, we have had an experience which is in that sense amazing. I mean, because what could have been very difficult ended up being an extremely positive experience. But this year then is also, let's say, is an exceptional year. And I think what lies underneath everything we experienced, and that is something that we knew during the festival, but very much in the weeks after, that kind of structural change that happened this year and that might actually also be implemented in the years to come can only happen when we work collectively. And I think that markets and festivals have a tendency to be very competitive, and I'm not against competition, but to create structural change, what we see now is that can only happen if we actually work collectively together. I mean, we cannot, and you cannot, Laurence, be front runners on something that redefines the success of a market unless you work alongside your colleagues. And I think that is happening right now. And I've never, ever experienced it to the degree that I do now, that festivals and markets help each other in a way which is extraordinary, share research, share results, share data. And I also see an industry suddenly moving towards wanting to work on creating social and political change with regards to larger global issues. And we're talking about inclusion, we're talking gender, we're talking climate change, we're talking many of the global challenges of today. And I think those no festival alone can work on that. And all the networks that I'm participating in now are about that. And for me, that's the most, I mean, I had not seen that coming, and it would most probably not have come if it hadn't been because of the COVID-19 situation.
You're more, you're so positive, Tina.
Yes.
But I also would like to say something about the general thing. Of course, we found, real creativity, and your next step that you're talking about, about building networks for festival, etc. I totally agree with that. Maybe we'll come to that, later on the discussion. But I also want to say, and I want to be honest, that we were very successful with our platform, even if it was the beginning, of the crisis. And everyone, all the attendees that had already subscribed to Series Mania Forum, most of them, 89% or 90% said, okay, we pay for that, we get a refund for blah, blah, but we subscribe to the digital platform. And everything was seen a lot of time. Everything, the video library, the series that we had managed to keep, in competition to show to the professional audience, the pitches, etc. But what was a bit disappointing, and we have to learn from that, is when it comes to interacting, when it comes to commit to a project and to say, can I get to know you more? Shall I develop, the series? People were a bit more reluctant. And the connection with the project holders were a bit, not disappointing, but not as big as the community of people participating. And we tried to think about that, and we thought about some explanation. First of all, we were, as you said, Lucia, at the beginning of the crisis, both Tina and us, and meaning that people were already, engaged in organizing themselves, their personal lives, their professional lives. They had time, to watch, to see, but to commit to a project and to say, I will spend, 3 years working with this guy, a digital, even if it's just tremendously creative, a digital project is not enough. You want to know the person. You want to connect with it. You want to have a beer with him. You want to have a physical contact with him, which means that for the future, and you're right, this crisis will change the way we interact and the role of festival. But I am sure that we will have to keep, a physical and a strong physical aspect in our professional gathering. The problem we will have is, I think so, and especially from the Americans, some executive will travel less, and especially from the US to Europe. And we know that because they will, they are more afraid maybe of all the sanitary problem than we are. And, they come from far away, etc. And it means that we will have to offer the people who cannot travel something digital, but also we have to reinforce the physical presence of our event. And we know that not all the markets and not all the festivals will survive this crisis. And maybe, as you said, an interesting opportunity is to build up a network of events, even if we, all of us, have our own identity and we have to keep it. But if we are generous enough not to focus that much on having the world premiere, but inviting someone to our festival to present it as a world premiere, and then to build a network of events that will follow the project that are shown in one event and then, goes with it to another festival, etc. We will be stronger, and the industry will benefit more from the change in this marketing aspect of the festivals.
I'm really happy to hear that, because as you know, this collaboration element has always been extremely important in the context of the media program and will be even more important in the future, where networks of festivals will be supported. But let's now try to look forward. I think you have already announced some trends like the collaboration, because many people are saying that this crisis has actually been an accelerator of change, that in 2-3 months we have accomplished things that were unthinkable before. So the new normal, what is the new normal? Are we going back to what we knew beforehand? How do you see the 2021 edition of your festivals? And how do you see the evolution of the industry more broadly? Is collaboration, but what is also
for me,
there?
the new normal will be hybrid events. For me, I don't know.
Yeah, but I think that it would be extremely strange to not include digital now. So, I think most festivals will be hybrid, and for a very good reason. And but I think also picking up on what you said, Laurence, that we need, or at least we are now in the process of making a very thorough analysis on what can still be digital. Who can live in the digital space? Also, when we talk financing and development, who can actually deal with it, and who cannot? Who needs to be physically present? And there are so many variations in that. So I'm not naively saying anything can be digital, because there are so many things that cannot be digital. Like, how do we make newcomers have a place in the system? Like new talents and new producers and people from regions that are traveling less. How do we actually manage to bring them in? That's a whole chapter in itself. And then there are some producers who've traveled the world for 20 years, and they might not need to go to 25 markets or festivals each year. So, we need to go into details when redesigning, and I'm quite sure that there's an entire industry now who are also aware that they have a responsibility. And we've all been a part of a social experiment called Corona-19, where we have changed our behavior in a way which is like, out of this world. And I think festivals will do the same. And some of it has to do with dealing with climate change and having to deal with inclusion. But some of it is also really, how do you build a festival that used to be, well, international, but still happening in one city? How do you build it where you can have a very different reach? And I think, I mean, we're doing that now, and I know there are many other documentary festivals thinking the same way. How do you build global networks? How do you premiere film globally instead of keeping it to your own brand? How do you work for films to create cultural and social impact, not only by your own way and by your own brand, but also in alliances? I mean, for me, it's like, it's a revelation, because there's so many other ways of working around being a promotion platform for films that was simply not open before, because we screen films only in cinemas, and we're still going to have physical experiences, and we are still going to be ever in love with that space called cinema. So it's not about declining that at all, but it's also about really strongly believing in the potential of sharing the responsibility with the global community.
Yeah, I agree. And on the other hand, you know, Tina, we both have events based on public event and professional one.
Yeah.
For the public, I mean, what is the difference in a public event between a festival and a digital platform? It's the fact that you can talk to the actors, to the screenwriters, that you can participate in debate, etc. That's the human experience, which is different. And I really think that it's also our role to bring it to the audience. If we want them, you know, to understand what we're doing, if we want them to discover, for me, new series, high-end series, for you, new documentaries, they have to come. They have to feel that they are part of, you know, of an energy of all of us, all of them, you know, going to the same place to see the same program. So for me, that's the limit of.
But Laurence, on the other hand, I have to say that this year's experience was that we were ready with the festival. So the entire campaign was outdoor, and, you know, suddenly we had to create everything, all people's attention via digital channels, because people were inside. And that's very hard to redesign in 4 days. So what happened was that audiences created that campaign virally on social media, saying, stay home, stay real, watch docs, etc., etc. So I have to say that the sense of community, at least for us, has never ever been stronger than this year, and the sense of an audience taking ownership of the festival has never been stronger than this year. And I would also say that the kind of communities that has been built online because of this is also something new. And a small example is that we had this talk with Edward Snowden, and it was sold out in a screening room with 600. It had been a film and then a live talk with him in a cinema. And then it went online instead, and now almost 100,000 people have seen it. And they are all online, and they are in the chat talking to each other. So there's interaction, and there is social reach and impact in a way which is very hard to not fall in love with.
Yeah, but that's the difference between documentaries and TV series. We won't have the rights, you know, to show TV series and new TV series for a general audience. And that's, you know, so, I mean, that's not open to us.
Many takeaways, but I think what is clear for me that there will be a space for creativity in the near future from what you have just said. So now, Laurence, I would like to ask you a question. Commissioner Breton spoke yesterday at our European Film Forum event about the importance of supporting the transformation of the audiovisual industry to make it more resilient, greener, more digital, but he spoke about the need to, and I think this is relevant in the context of a TV series festival, about the need to protect European IP, and then about invest much more significantly in high-end, very ambitious TV content that can travel globally. What is your take on this?
Thanks, because it's exactly what we're doing. We really need, and it's, I mean, sorry, Tina, it's a bit different from what you're doing. In the TV series, I mean, it's challenging. It's a real challenge to build this European creativity, high-end series that can compete with the American ones. It's not that we have to oppose both of them, but we know that our market has to be structured about on talents, on new voices, on new people who want to write, you know, series. And that's what we're going to make big announcement next week. And that's what we're going to try to build next week, you know, this European network of new talents. It's something that we have in common. We have to find, we have the same, we share the same values, European values, our values, you know, shared in common. We do not write the same way, but we do share an, you know, European environment, some values, some history, and people have to learn to work together and to just build stories that are local, but can go global. And that's why we created so many initiatives, the French-Israeli writing residencies, the UGSA Writers Campus, the Series Lab. Our industry is about creating a European network of people, screenwriters, producers, you know, broadcasters that can, you know, attack the markets on a big scale. And that's what it is about. And, you know, we're lucky enough to have, you know, close to 30% of all our projects since we created that, you know, 5 years ago, to be now real series. And that's a lot. I can name, you know, Freud, which is now airing on Netflix, you know, for the last one, you know, No Man's Land soon on Arte. We got this, you know, a Swedish show recently picked up by Sundance Now. And that's something that people know, that when they come to this event, they meet people with new and fresh ideas. But what and I agree with you, Tina, we can, you know, they go there, they have the contact, but then we have to offer them, you know, the opportunity to keep this contact, you know, all year long. And this, you know, what Thierry Breton said yesterday about, you know, building this network, those new ideas, we have to help them do that and to stay in touch and in contact all year long. But that's an active role of festivals, and, you know, not only sending, you know, email address to one another, just to keep and to push and to say to some of the buyers, or to say to some of the commissioner here, that this project that we picked up and we think it's for you. That's a lot of work, you know, that's really a lot of work. But that will make, thanks to this new technology, that will make maybe a change in how we see this, you know, international industry, because TV series is totally worldwide, and we have asked, you know, European to be really active in defending our positions, you know, and what we stand for.
And Tina, since your festivals, you have a lot of things in common, but at the same time, your festivals are very different. And I have read with a lot of interest in your website that actually you promote contemporary activism. So actually social movements that help shape and change the world we live in. And I think that this social activism has never been as important as it is today.
Yeah.
So are we entering a sort of golden age of global activism, thanks to digital, fueled by digital? And how do you see your festival in this new environment?
Well, I think, I mean, just for the listeners who are not so familiar with the festival, then it really stands on three legs. One is science, the other one is film, of course, and the third one is creating social change. And this year we should have had 220 films and 170 talks, workshops, and debates around the films. And all those activities around the films are done in partnership with hundreds of organizations, think tanks, educational institutions, decision makers, politicians, all kinds of people, which means that many of the films are carried into potentially creating change within other systems than just the cultural sector. And this has been a structural way of working for the last 5 years. And I have to say that what happened this year is like so extremely fueling that process. And the Snowdon example is one, I mean, because if you work locally, even though it's an international festival, but you still screen films locally in cinemas, you impact the people who are there and the organization and partners who are carrying the screening alongside you. But once you go digital, then you have a reach and an ability to act in a global world in a whole different way. And this is, in a way, some of the most interesting things for us right now, how to actually design that to make it happen in a way where it's not only something that happens on YouTube and nobody watches afterwards. But I strongly believe in the potential to do that. And I also want to say that it is specific for documentary films. But I strongly believe in the ability of arts in general. And that could be the last winners of Cannes last year, like Bacurau and Atlantique. I mean, they are so strong social and political comments on the society we live in. So it's not only for documentaries that we can do this. So I really think that a digital version of festivals can really strengthen the social and political impact of how we talk about art in general.
Well, let's move on to my last questions, because having so great inspirational woman, I felt I have to ask you last question, and it's about gender. Because in the aftermath of the Me Too movement, gender was perhaps a sort of hype. It was everywhere. There were talks about gender in every single festival. And now the crisis has brought other issues into surface. So do you think that the gender debate and the gender issues are going still to remain high on the agenda? How do you intend to do as a festival to empower European female talent? And also to ensure that this new digital environment is also gender inclusive? Do you have ideas on that?
What we're doing, on our, limited scale is that, as I said, we have, 3 different pitching sessions from, different origin, UGC Writers Campus, French Israeli Residency, Series Lab, and our co-pro pitching session. And what I asked the team is that at this level, the project that we select at the end, they have to be gender balanced, meaning the same amount of project written by men as they are, by women, which is a bit difficult, by the way, because in series, it's not only one person that writes, but a lot of persons. But what I mean is that we start from the bottom, when people have new ideas and come, and just write. This has to be equal. At the top, when we select the series, we cannot do that. But by starting from the bottom, it means that in a few years, we will have equal number of series selected in our international competition coming from men and coming from the women. But what I say is that now, even if, we are all strong on gender equality, we also have to take care about diversity.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
We cannot, and that's going to be even more difficult. We cannot restrain ourselves just to push gender equality. It has to be diversity of voices. And that's something that the European Commission has to take into account. Does it have to be the same action? Does it have to be 2 different actions? But we cannot continue like that with only, the people, looking at like us, writing those new stories in documentaries or in series. We have to be more inclusive.
Well, Florence, I just applaud everything you say. I think it's I really do not think that the focus on neither gender nor diversity and more inclusive ways of working will disappear because of the COVID-19. I would almost say on the contrary. I think that the COVID-19 has put so much focus on the way we can actually design our institution organizations to be more inclusive. And I think that many of us, I signed the 50-50 pledge 2 years back, and we have already implemented in everything we do, in the organization, in the board. The official selection is 50-50 now. So it went so fast. So it's not to brag, but it's just to say that it was basically a way of saying it's not a quota, but it's a way of talking about what quality is and how we scout for projects, and that we don't only scout where we already know, but that we scout where we don't know people. And
it's not that easy. It's not that easy, because then you also have to balance, between countries. We cannot take only, let's say, French or German project. We have to come project from the East, big project, small project, and all these criteria have to be mixed with gender equality. So it's not that easy.
I don't think it's easy, but what I wanted to say is that I think that gender has been on the agenda for some time now, and it's going to continue being on the agenda. And I think nobody can, I mean, there were so many who signed the pledge, and I mean, you signed a pledge and you work for it. You can't just leave it. That's one thing. And the other thing is that I so much agree, Laurence, on diversity, that's a whole different thing. It's not a whole different thing, but it's a massive thing to work on, and that Creative Europe should definitely be a part of that. And I think that the digital shift now in festival and markets really opens up possibilities here. Because, I mean, let's say a financing forum. So you invite your usual decision makers, and they travel, and they can travel because they have budgets to travel on, etc., etc. But then you leave out a whole group of people who cannot attend. And what's going to happen now is that we're going to design markets where you can attend, even though you cannot afford to attend. Or that you can prioritize it in a different way, because you don't need to bring in thousands any longer. You bring in less, but you bring in the very important ones. And those could be Global South, or they could be, I mean, whatever kind of institution you have. But I think it calls also for a rethinking of how we scout and how we invite and how we interact.
So let's now move to the questions, because we got a lot of questions. I think the conversation has been fascinating. So there is a question from Susanne Crocker. Do you see any of the lessons learned perhaps leading to the elimination of the premier status criteria of international festivals? Would you go as far as that?
Should I?
Yes, Tine, please.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I can say without saying who I talked to, that I think that there is a possibility that I would go alongside, let's say, 2, 3, 4, 5 other festivals, and that we together would take care of a premiere, and that premiere would of course be distributed over a whole year, but that we commit to helping and promoting and making a specific film travel into the world and of course create impact. And that's, I mean, it's also redefining what a premiere is. I mean, I definitely think that there would be less focus on me and my brand and my world premiere, and more focus on creating the right circumstances for the films to premiere alongside each other.
So we have here another question just arrived. Does screening at an online film festival digitally reduce the value of the film for digital platforms? Do you think it would affect the selling price of the film?
I mean, to premiere at a festival on a digital platform.
No, screening digitally, does it undermine the value of the film for digital platforms?
I don't think so. I think that we will all change, you know. We will all take, you know, this opportunity to change the way we think about, you know, premiering or about selling our films, etc. And what we're going to propose the platform is to include this strategy of showing films or series to a selected audience. For TV series, it's going to be only more professional, no general audience, and to see the reaction. And what we're going to offer them is to measure the reaction, you know, of all the professional, to do some tests, and you know, those hybrid premiere could be also a way to test how they could market then the film and which audience they could offer it to. No, I don't think so.
Here we have a question for both. What would you do differently? If you had to do it again, what would you do differently? I think it's a very good question.
I would forbid COVID-19 to come on Earth, you know.
I would, I think I know what I would do, because the thing, we had to go home on that night on the 11th of March, and then we had to run the festival from each hour home, and just a nightmare. So I would have, that night, I would have locked myself and all my employees into a hotel and stayed there for the next 2 weeks.
I must say that it was pretty much exciting, you know, to work from different places. Yeah. And also it built up some kind of team spirit that we are, but that we didn't know. We were, you know, pushing so fast to be ready in 2 weeks. We're talking to one another all the time. It was also the time that I was personally affected by this COVID-19. So it was, just a bit heavy, but you build something very strong with your team that you want to offer your audience or your professionals. But I mean, honestly speaking, I would have, preferred to have a festival.
Yes, and we also got questions from very young talent that I would like to get your advice. So what is the advice you would give to young talent that are either trying to make their way in the TV series creation content or documentary? What would be your advice to this young talent?
Tina?
I think, it depends a little where in the world you are. If you're within a European context, I would say that I think it's necessary to build a European family when it comes to producing films and making films. And I think that many of the training programs that are also supported by Creative Europe are really like ideal places to do that. And I started myself by doing Liabe, and it made me, that's the reason why I could build a festival like this. But I mean, so it depends on whether you're inside Europe or not. But that would be an answer for someone who is.
It's very interesting because you use the word, enter a European family, and I was thinking they should enter a European network, as what we are building at Series Mania, which means that in TV series or in documentaries, the advice is the same. Don't stay alone. Don't stay by yourself. Especially in TV series, which is, a common initiative. Try to enter one of those programs that I described, or the one that we talk about, and that I will announce next week. Don't be alone. We believe in European creativity, and either if it could be for writing films or it could be for writing series. Don't stay by yourself, and go enter, and learn about, other creativity, other way of writing, other way of thinking. That's the key to the future European creativity. That's my belief.
Yeah, and I also just want to say that, because I hate to see Europe as a closed off circus. So most of the training programs are very happy to invite global participants into the training programs as well. So wherever you come from, try to get into those networks, and because it's going to help you with your entire career. Yeah.
Okay, so we are reaching our 45 minutes now. And I actually would like to quote one of the comments. It's not a question, a comment actually that we got for Mark Lund. He said in the chat, there should be an award for what Tine and Laurence have accomplished. So innovative and inspiring.
Thank you.
And I think I couldn't find a better way to wrap up this session.
Thank you.
Because you have been really, truly inspiring. And we, from the media side, we really look forward to continue working with you in the future. Thank you very much for sharing your insights.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.